Okay, so first of all, apologies for Monday evening. We had some technical issues which meant that we couldn't actually do the session. However, there is going to be some stuff that we can do in place of that. So this recording hopefully will just give you an idea of what we are going to cover in the defence, and then also we can then talk on Monday evening around any questions you may have. So what I'm going to do is just share the screen to begin with, and we're just going to look around what our defensive shapes are. So if we move down to our types of defense, and so we're going to talk briefly just through each one of these, what I call personally the jam, the curve, and then threes. And so we're just going to talk around pros and cons around each defense, and then some technical work around how you can actually get them to be executed. So what we're looking at to begin with is really quite simple on what we call the jam. So if we create a ruck with the blue team, what we're looking at is they will probably line up. And this, by the way, is something that can be executed in 15s and 7s. It's not just 7 specific. However, it's just easier to see through this example what we can do. So on a 7s field. So what we're looking at is we've got 3 in the ruck protecting the ball. So we've got the ball carrier, we've got the ball, the number 2 who's actually protecting the ruck, and then we've got the number 3 who's then the scrum half almost getting the ball out the ruck. So we've committed 3 players to that one breakdown. And because we're on the edge here, this is the touchline, we're on the edge, we don't need actually to compete at this ruck really. So what we can do is we can pull this player out into what we call the box position. Then they're looking after the blind side as well as potentially the open side. So what we can have is we can have our number 3 line up across number 4. Okay, and similarly, we can go across the field just like this. And what you'll find is that because we've got 3 who are committed in this ruck already, and only 1 of our players in that ruck area, we have 2 players who are floating. And so before we even look at these 2 players and what they can do, we're looking at this kind of area here where we're looking at effectively a 4-on-4. And so when we have that 4-on-4, we need to be able to, as a defensive unit, control what the attack do. And a great way for us to do that is to position ourselves either on the inside or the outside of the defender. If we position ourselves on the inside of the defender, of the attacker, then what will probably happen is that the attacker will take the outside shoulder and the outside line and move towards where the defense isn't coming from. So when we talk about the jam, what we're actually looking to do is actually jam up and contain the attack. So let's say this number 7 here is somebody really fast, like Carlin Isles or Perry Baker, for example. And what we're looking to do is actually limit their time and their space on the ball. And a great way to do that is for them to actually not even get the ball. So what we'll have is we'll have our red defense stand on the outside shoulder of the opposite players in front of them. Okay, and again, notice we're not using these 2 players up here just yet. So because now they're on the outside shoulders, the attack are not really that aware, or they can't really see where the defense is coming from. As they can't see where the defense is coming from, because if they are a good attacker, they should be looking at 360 degrees of the field. However, what they're probably looking at is just the ball. So if they're looking at just the ball, their peripherals will probably stop around here, and they'll just look after this kind of motion here. So then what we're looking at is we're looking to actually take away the space. So the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 7 will take away the space on the outside shoulders of the defense and increase that tackle line. This will effectively force the number 4 or the 5 or the 6 in the blue team to step inside. Once we step inside, we've actually contained them and we'll put them on the back foot. So already we've taken them away from the gain line, we've increased the tackle line, and then also we've stopped the attack. If we then wanted to play with a sweeper, that's fine, we'll bring the number 6 in. what we can do is then have the number 6 fill into either of these positions. And the reason why is because if we have the number 3 who is launching up on the defense, the number 4 on the blue team will then step back inside. If they step back inside, then the number 6 here makes that tackle. Similarly, if we move across to the next channel and we're looking to attack that number 5, what we can actually start to do is make some double tackles in these positions. So then if that's what the jam looks like, and obviously, you know, if we don't play with the sweeper, we can really load up on the inside and the outside shoulders of the 4 and the 5 here. But if that's what the jam is, and we're looking to contain the defense and not allow them to get the ball to the outside, you know, again, if we look at somebody like Naya Tapper or Christy Kirsch on the women's national team, they want time and space, and what this is doing is not allowing the attack to have the time and the space that they want, and so they have to choose different options of how they attack. But what we'll do now is we'll actually talk around what does a curved defense look like, and that's normally used when you see an overlap. So if we get rid of this formation to begin with, and we'll set up another scenario. So again, we've got a ruck in the middle of the field. Okay, and let's say we've got a heavy overload of the fence because there's just been a play or breakdown of something that's happened. And what we have now is effectively a 3v2. So that 3v2 is in the position. So we've got a really condensed defense. So the red defense is really condensed. There's no sweeper. Okay, so the ball gets moved out to the number 5. How then do we defend this? So a lot of the time you'll probably hear that applying pressure is useful in defense, and it is. However, if we rush up as a defensive unit into this position, what you'll see is that number 5 will probably take a couple of steps into this channel here and then move the ball to 6. And as you see, the 7 and the 6, the 7 is on the inside shoulder of the 6, and the 6 will probably just take that line and go all the way through. So what we have to do is be able to manipulate again and control the attack and what we want them to do. And this is quite controversial in terms of how you actually teach defensive principles, especially in a 15s game, because, you know, it's always about launching, getting off the line, taking away space, winning the race for space, and putting pressure on the attack. What we're looking to do is actually allow those players the space that they think that they want. So the players are actually, the blue team is actually trying to get into this space. And what we're going to ask the number 7 and the number 5 to do is to condense a touch, have the 5 come in, and then what we're looking to do is actually travel backwards into this space. So as the ball gets moved across, these 2 red players can then start to move with the ball. And what we want to do is we want to be able to give them that time and that space so that as that ball's moving, that picture stays the same for the red team. That will just allow then the defense the time and the space to regroup. And then once the tackle is made in this space over here, the red team can then completely regroup and realign and reorganize their defense. So quite a strange way to defend. It's quite controversial in the fact that, again, in most 15s games especially, we're told to get off the line. We're telling our players to launch and get in the space and take that space away. Whereas if we have an overlap, a really, really effective way to defend it is just to give them that space, make them think that they have that outside shoulder. And, you know, as a defensive unit, we line up on the inside of the inside shoulder and push them out towards the touchline. And then finally, we're going to look at what I call threes, which is quite a simple concept by name, a little bit harder to execute. However, it's quite a fun way of defending. So we're looking at this position. We've got 3 players effectively together at all times. And the inside player or sorry, the middle player is always working. So what we're just going to highlight is the 1, the 6, and the 4. They are a 3. And if we put the ball onto the 3, we've got this kind of formation. We've got the 1, the 6, and the 4 as a 3. The number 6 is the middle and always in control. So they are always in front of the ball. So if the ball moves to the number 2, what we're looking to do is just move the 6 and the 1 and just move over again. So you'll see that these 3 players are still connected together. So if we just take that back a touch, so then if that's 1, 3, we have another 3, which is here. And all we're asking these 3 to do is not launch off the line. It's just to slowly creep up so that we can take that space away. These players creeping up also then limit the options of this attack because they don't want to move the ball out there because they've got that space. The 4 and the 2, it's crucial that they are connected and so that they don't expose this gap in the middle. And then what this forces this attack to do on this side is actually take the ball into contact because their options wide, left or right of them, are actually being taken out. What we can do then is we can drop the sweeper in behind, and we can follow the ball. But effectively, what we're looking to do is move the ball. If they move the ball here, then that's okay. What we do is just we reconnect that line. And then as you'll see, we're going backwards and backwards and backwards as an attacking unit. So what we're looking to do then from the red team, we don't actually have to make a tackle. They have to get back in order to be able to pass the ball. Okay, the number 4, the 6, and the 1 on the red side can then increase their level of aggression in terms of maybe coming up a little bit more. And again, you'll see this kind of formation where, well, the only option really is to take the ball into contact. And so we're allowing the players to give themselves this false sense of security of we're going to take this space and come into contact. But you'll see that we've actually started from over here. We've pushed the players back. So the 3 basic concepts, the jam, what we're looking for is to get on the outside shoulder of the defense when we have an overload in in defense. When we have an overload in defense, we're looking to get on the outside shoulder and launch and get into the faces of the attackers. When the attack have an overload and we don't have the numbers in defense, we want to get to the inside shoulder and start to push the players out towards the edge or the touchline. And then finally, when we're matched and we have 3s, we're working that middle player, left and right of us are connected. And when the ball's on the other side of the field, we're looking to push up just a touch, just to close out that space, force the players to take the ball into contact. And if there's a contact situation, there's potential turnover, and there's a potential turnover, that means potential try. So that's what we're looking to do. So, hopefully this was quite useful, and then happy on Monday to answer any questions, and also just to do a quick recap as well on Monday evening. So hope this was useful, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you.